Hi everyone, my name is Hadi and welcome to my short talk about a perspective of sound system optimization, or also widely known as sound system tuning. Please note that this is not a deep discussion about sound system optimization, but it's just a simple informal technical talk about it. I'd like to answer a lot of same or similar frequently asked questions that I receive when I'm working on the site. I'd also like to share my past experiences and my own perspective about sound system optimization process itself. So let's go to the first frequently asked questions. I go to the place, I'm unloading my equipment, preparing my equipment, and most likely there is a quick question, what do you do again? Are you going to make noises? What is tuning mean? Well, of course, the contractor who hired me or a certain individual that hired me probably know what I'm doing. However, there are other people that present there that probably ask the same questions. What am I going to do with the sound system? My typical answer is making sure the sound system is working optimally for a long-term period. This answer probably satisfies most people. What do you mean by optimum? What do you mean by long-term period? And yes, that's two key points here, long-term period and optimum. So number one, I think we all know that in a church auditorium or any kind of places that need sound system, a lot of people think after 5 years we need a replacement. Or probably they're thinking, I heard a better speaker out there. I think it's time to replace the sound system. The word replacement is so much easy to present in that kind of situation. However, the word optimize is very rarely mentioned first. Just because you have a good product, a good loudspeaker, if it is not set up optimally, then yeah, in 5 years probably a lot of people get bored of it or get tired of it if there are problems or anything like that. For example, a feedback problem, then it becomes short term. So long term means that we can use the system for a long time and it supports the function of the room. Another key point of long term is protection. Loudspeaker needs to be protected. Certainly you don't want to blow up sound system just by using it for 1 month only. That's where sound system optimization comes. It's not just making it sound good, but also protecting the loudspeaker so it can function well for a long-term period. We are talking about more than 10 years of period. Now, the word optimum is also something tricky to talk. When someone said, oh, hey, I heard manufacturer A sounds really good, manufacturer B sounds really good, I attend manufacturer C demo and it sounds amazing. Yes, it's great to always start with a loudspeaker that you like or that sounds good to your ear. That's always great, and manufacturer preset can help you to achieve a good starting point. However, things get so different when you already put it inside your room. That's the key point of sound system optimization. It's not just about selecting good loudspeaker or good products, but it's also making the room and the loudspeaker work together. And it's important to understand that our ear listens to the sound of the loudspeaker and the room sound. Room sound is what most people know as sound reflections. So we have to puzzle here. The loudspeaker itself has its own puzzle, which one, which type, what's the layout, and the room itself has its own puzzle, how the room sounds, how long the reverberation time is the reverberation time has a lot of echo problem or anything like that. So there are two puzzles here that you need to connect together. And yes, a loudspeaker will eventually interact with room and you have two problems right away, two puzzles to solve. A loudspeaker and a room is like a marriage. Do you think changing the room is easy? Changing the room means room renovation. You need to install absorber, diffusers, acoustical treatments, change the room size, change the room layout. Probably the chair needs to be changed from wooden to padded chair. There are a lot of things in room that's probably restrictive. How about if it is a historical room that you cannot touch? A loudspeaker, on the other hand, is a sound system. It's a system, and you can put a correction such as EQ, limiter, and different type of processing that you can put inside the system. Yes, you are compromising there. So you are putting a little bit of correction, a little bit of EQ that can aid the loudspeaker and room interaction. That can help so the loudspeaker interaction with the room is better. That's like a marriage, right? I mean, you cannot have a happy marriage instantly. Sound system optimization is a process, and loudspeaker and room needs to combine together, and one probably needs to compromise, and we want to have a good interaction. Next thing, frequently asked questions. Are you going to use your ear to tune, or are you going to just based on whatever your computer tell you? Well, this is something that, again, forgotten. That in audio, it's not about ear, it's not about equipment. It's about the balance. Science is the objective measurement. Art is the subjective or the listening part, or what people say ear. And in my opinion, audio is always 50-50. Do you want to approach it from the science first? Do you want to approach it from the subjective part? Well, at the end, why don't you combine them? For me personally, I'd like to approach everything from the science first. Do the calculation, measurement, a lot of thinking, put everything there, and then come up with one first solution or one first step. This is the key point of sound system optimization. A lot of people think, yeah, let's just make one EQ and then be done with it. No, it's not like that. Sometimes you need to make several EQ, combine them together. There's always a step. Remember, again, happy marriage is not just one step and an instant step right like that. Sometimes you need to have several process repetition in the process to create one good way. And certainly after that, you need to listen. If whatever you are doing doesn't sound good, well, you probably need to rethink your way. Now, let's get this thing to a more tricky level. What if I come to a place, I'm ready to measure, I'm ready to listen, and suddenly my computer doesn't work, my equipment doesn't work? Then I need to rely on my ear. Oh yes, I had several cases where I need to rely on my ear. I cannot just tell to myself, fully doing things subjective or just listening only. If I'm doing that, I will be lost. So there should be a way to infuse a little bit of objectivity inside subjectivity. For example, finding a reference track that you know that you have been listening to for many years and you know how it should sound like. And yes, then you have a little bit of objectivity by having a reference. I attended a concert and then I have a ringing in the ear just because I forgot my earplug and it was a loud concert. And the next day I got call, Hadi, I need you to help me with the sound system tuning, and my ear is still ringing, and to make matter worse, probably I have a cold, I have a stuffy nose that I couldn't hear well. Am I going to fully rely on the squiggly line that the computer is telling me? Hey, then in that case I need to think, how do I infuse subjectivity inside objectivity? Now, that's a little bit deep if we want to talk about that, but the key of science and art is always a balance. So will you use your ear to tune? Yes, certainly I use my ear to tune. But I always infuse the balance between the science and art, or objectivity and subjectivity. A lot of time, I came to a place and someone came to me, do you use brand A? Do you use brand B? Do you use Bremsy? The question will be generalized as what measurement software do you use? Now, this is also very interesting that a lot of people is very marketing oriented, which is normal. I understand that. However, it depends on the job. Whatever job that I'm encountering will require a certain tools. Tools is the key point. Tools can also mean hardware or software or both. Okay, so let's have an example of putting a nail inside the wall. Can I use hammer? Yes, sure. That's probably the right tools. Use a hammer to put in the nail inside the wall. Well, here's the key point. You have the right tool doesn't mean you can do the job. For example, can you do it fast without bending the nail? Can you do it fast and have the right result? Can you do it fast without hitting yourself? Just because there is a tool doesn't mean the expertise of using the tool is the same between everyone else. So some system optimization is truly not just about software or not just about tools. It's really the expertise of the person who is using it. Now, there are 10 hammers in front of you. Which one do you like? Yes, now we get into preference. Some people probably like this hammer, just maybe the center of gravity works well for their hand, or that hammer because of the size and all that jazz. Now, if there is no hammer, can we get something else? Yeah, probably we can get a stone outside, not like a brick. Brick will break probably to hit a nail inside the wall, but a stone that is very tough can be used to hit a nail inside the wall. Is it the perfect tool? Probably not, but yes, it can get the job done. Using fist? Nah, you will hurt yourself. So yes, there is going to be a wrong tool to do a work. There is probably the best tool to do the work, and probably there is somewhat in between. So I'm thinking it's not about the software, the brand, the hardware. It depends on the job and what do I need to finish that job. And tools make our life easier. So let's go back to sound system optimization. What tools are there? What tools do I usually bring? Real-time analyzer. I have it on my phone. I have it on my portable analyzer. And I have several software inside my computer that do RTA, real-time analyzer. And yes, FFT analyzer. I have it in my portable analyzer, and I have several software inside my computer too. Sometimes I need TDS analyzer, time delay spectrometry. All of these analyzers, they have different function. I don't really care with the brand or anything. Yes, I'm using certain brand only because I'm used to that brand. Now, this is a very generalized question. What method do you use? Now, the real question is certainly not this, but the real question can be, do you use a laser tape measure to do a delay calculation? Do you use an Excel sheet to do any calculation? Do you align the phase to do calculation? Do you look at group delay? Do you look at different microphone position? Do you average different microphone position? Where is the microphone position? Why do you place it there? So there is a lot of method that we can use, a lot of way that we can use to approach a sound system optimization. And there is no easy answer for this thing. You know, I know to satisfy the question and to close off the conversation, because I need to go back to work, certainly I need to answer it right to the point. But in this video, I'd like to answer this in a more generalized idea. Number one is it depends on the layout. So if you have one house of worship with the stairs column in the front, then I probably do it in this way. And then what if they change it to small loudspeaker in the front, and then 30 feet away there is another small loudspeaker? Remember, one problem, one room can be solved with different way of loudspeaker design or layout, and the optimization will be different. how the loudspeaker are chained. Are those two loudspeakers parallel, powered with one channel of amp only? Flexibility of sound system tuning depends on how the system is designed. What method am I going to use? I'm going to align this, align that, using what tools? It truly depends on the layout. Okay, and certainly a marriage for different couple has different recipe to make it work, right? As I told you, one room can be solved with different design or different layout, and different design or layout will lead to different way of optimization. Why is everyone always considering one method only? Oh, you have to do like this in the full range to subwoofer alignment. Oh, you have to do like this in the EQ. Why do we limit ourselves to one method? One person can do method A, second person can do method B, third person can do method C. If I learn from all of that people, then I will learn each method fully, be good at them, and when I go to do my work, I will choose which method is perfect, or what's my mood, which method do I need to grab at that point. A lot of people are so focused into one method, one software only, one way only. I don't look at it that way. My perspective is that's a job to do. Look at the job, what's the problem, know the problem, find the tools, and find the approach to fix it. My goal is these three things: transparent, intelligible, and musical sound system. What is transparent? Sound system is a sound reproduction system. This is the big key point. It's reproduction. What's in should be what's out. I'm thinking sound system as a distributor of sound. Amplification is just a part of distributing the sound. If someone is talking to the microphone and that person has a very small voice, well, I don't expect the sound will be transformed. I mean, it will be still a small voice that is distributed evenly. What's in is equal the output that's uniformly distributed. I do not agree that sound system should give a lot of coloration. Now, that's way too subjective and it can be misleading. And the next thing, sound system has to be intelligible. Everyone who hears the message that's spoken through the system needs to be easily understood. Now, this is probably more into sound system design than sound system optimization, but for sure, sound system optimization can increase the intelligibility of the system. Musical. A lot of people say a lot of subjective words such as, ooh, that sounds like a fast subwoofer, a fast speaker. It's very, very musical. Now, again, this is a subjective word, so objectivity can be different to each people. But in my opinion, musical is where the time domain and the frequency domain data are looking good. A lot of people are too focused in the frequency response and the phase response. Those are just frequency domain data. There is still 50% on the other domain, which is the time domain data. How's the loudspeaker in the time domain data? If the time domain data presents a problem, including the room itself can give problem, then the musicality can be degraded. Let's talk about some example. So in this example, there is a left and right speaker where the subwoofer is in the middle of the stage. It's typical. Probably a bar or restaurant has a lot of this setup where this audience area are where people are eating, or an outdoor setup. And certainly there are a lot of auditorium, house of worships, or gymnasium that has a little bit of stage and the corner that uses this layout. Great layout. But when people get too specific, how do you do delay? How do you approach to align the speaker? I typically do not just jump into method or all objectivity right away, but there is something that I usually think before everything else, which is common sense. Common sense is typically forgotten because sound system optimization sometimes needs a lot of concentration. in setting up the equipments, or probably you have a very limited time to do the work, and that's typical, right? But common sense is something that you usually sit down, look at the system, and think, what's the sense behind all of that thing? So in this case, the distance from the position 1 to the subwoofer is closer than the distance from position 1 to the full range. Hence, we need to delay the subwoofer. In position 2, well, hold on, it's probably the same distance. Probably delay is not needed. On number 3, probably this position is closer to the full range but farther to the subwoofer. Hence, we need to delay the full range. Can the subwoofer be split left and right? Is it going to give a better result, or probably we're just stuck with this location? Maybe the subwoofer is under the stage in the middle, and this is things that we need to think. We need to prioritize some location maybe, and certainly it's not a direct answer or which method I'm going to use to do the alignment between the system. Next thing is a typical arrangement for a gymnasium. 3 loudspeakers for the bleachers, including this one. There is a bleacher 2 in here, and also 3 loudspeakers facing down for the court, the basketball court. Okay, now again, first thing that people typically ask me is, how do you delay the system? How do you make the sound line? How about if these 3 loudspeakers are powered from one amplifier channel? This is from one amplifier channel. This is from one amplifier channel. Let's see the other alternative. How about if all of the bleacher loudspeakers are powered within one amplifier channel? This 3 for one, another bleacher is from one amplifier channel, and the middle side, which is covering the cord, is for one amplifier channel. Is there advantages from one to the other? Yeah, certainly. But that will result in a different method, different way, different approach of tuning. Having an open mind will be great. Sometimes the client probably knows some information that we don't know, and it can help with our work. For this auditorium, column array were installed. It's a great system. I think it's a great system. However, column array, this is a passive column array, not a steered column, is typically not too good with a slope audience area, especially if the slope is quite significant like this. So what happened is the front receive enough mid and high frequency, but the back side, it's not as bright as the front. In that case, are we going to put some kind of weighting? Should we make this win a little bit brighter than usual to compensate this area? Or probably should we make 2 presets if it's possible, so the user can change whether it is filled or it is just half filled. So again, in the sound system optimization, sometimes it's just not one solution for everything. Probably more thinkings are required depending on how the auditorium is used and what the limitation of the system based on the design is. Another big thing that is usually asked is, how loud is the low frequency or the subwoofer compared to the full range? It depends on the use. Is it used for lecture most of the time with a little bit of presentation? Or is it used for musical? Is it used for band, big band type, or more into amplified instrument or amplified concert? So those will be different in my opinion on how I will set up the low frequency. For speech use only, I usually think that the rise of the low frequency, if it's needed, it cannot be just done, oh, the subwoofer has to be 10 dB louder, or at 300 hertz it should rise up to 10 dB louder. I don't think that that's the case in my opinion. I think there is something called a double slope. I've been to a church where the priest ask for a certain kind of sound, subjectively, of course, and I give them a result of the EQing that I created, and then he gave a feedback. And the result was that he wants about 6 dB boost at 800 hertz and below. And there is another case where someone prefer 3 dB boost at 500 and below, and then another 6 dB boost at 100 and below. That's like a double slope. That's how I think it. And it depends. It depends on the client. It depends on the use. So I typically do not have a certain answer of how much low frequency it should be until I'm in the room, see how the loudspeaker and the room interact. There are some rooms that just give so much low frequency. So it truly depends on the job. And here's another key point. How about a nightclub? I've been doing an optimization for nightclubs, and in this nightclub, the typical sound that's measured is about 125 dBc with 105 dBA. That's about 20 dB more of subwoofer or low frequency, and that's considered normal. So I hope this gives you a clue about my approach, my perspective in sound system optimization, that I typically do not just grab one method or one approach only to do different things. I always go there, sit down and think, look at the data first, and sometimes I need to change a different microphone position just to do a different thing. For example, I may use 6 different positions of microphone to develop an EQ, but I will use 4 a totally different location for doing full range and subwoofer alignment. It truly depends on the job, the need, and certainly whatever tools that's available. The next thing that I usually ask, well, do you teach sound system? Can I study from you? Yes, I do teach sound system optimization, and I will customize it to your need. So most likely I'm only offering private classes. Everyone has different tools that they prefer to use. Everyone has different understanding of audio. Therefore, I mostly teach privately only.